So lunchtime is pretty soon, and I don't want to keep you guys waiting. And my talk isn't very long, so I thought I'd start off with a little joke. So the dog walks into the bar, sits down, and asks the bartender for a drink. The bartender pours him a drink and asks, "Hey, buddy, how was your day?" The dog looks at the bartender and says, "Rough." Okay. Yeah, it's considering a comedian as a career path if this doesn't work out. Okay, so starting off with the reverse shell fallacy, introduction to defense evasion, and why a reverse shell doesn't always mean success. So I had the idea of doing this talk after seeing on what is now the best source of information, aka LinkedIn, people posting reverse shells, bypassing like certain vendors and so on, and them getting like millions of likes, while other people post actual like useful information and them not even getting like a share. Yeah, those people know who they are. So this is just a little bit about me. I'm on Discord a lot, sharing memes. You can try and reach out to X. I don't know if the messages will go through because I don't have premium. I like sharing memes. I like making malware and tools and talking about shit like that. And then I also just like general like Windows-based stuff. Today is on the agenda. Please forgive the basic slides. Yeah, I literally worked on this for like 2 nights, and I was like, okay, well, fuck it, it's good enough. So we'll be covering the past and the present, what defenses were, what they were, and what they are now. Some things that Microsoft helps us out with, AMSI, AV, next generation AV, EDR, and then we'll just cover some takeaways. So past versus the present, I'll start off with the past. The past had the static detections, it sucked at faultless, it was brittle, it was easily bypassable. You could use like the Metasploit encoding, change it up a little bit, and Bob's your uncle. Before AMSI came out, I'm sure that was before my time. I'm sure attackers ran rampant. Yeah, but even when with AMSI and organizations that only have AMSI, and like a basic like antivirus, well, yeah, it's really easy to get around. And Cobalt Strike, Metasploit is everywhere. I'm sure you guys have heard of those tools. Today, the cracked Cobalt Strike is everywhere. AMSI, a lot of like security solutions have their own, I want to say like they hook into the AMSI DLL, or they basically like bring their own like sysmon so that they can actually just monitor the PowerShell event. So even if you bypass AMSI, great, you try and run a malicious script, you still get blocked. Virtual alloc, yeah, I don't know who uses just plain virtual alloc anymore, except for like just like demonstration purposes. Today's security solutions focus on visibility and hunting. It focuses on the actually like collecting events so that it can integrate with other solutions such as your SIEM, such as your XDR, such as your what other like 1,000 terms there are. AI and machine learning is everywhere, and for good reason, not just as a marketing thing, but well, it works well if it's just not a bunch of like if-else statements. I'm not a AI machine learning expert, obviously. You don't see me with like the ponytail and like the glasses. I'm more of just a guy who shares memes and talks about how I bypass shit. And then, yeah, so, back then it was static detection, so it would scan the files, and today it's more static and behavioral and correlation and all those other things. For these wanting to get into defense evasion, not just being like, oh, I'm a pen tester, cool, let me see if I can get a shell, it gets blocked. You know, people who you don't want to bother the client, you don't want to tell the client, hey, listen, can you please just put my thing on detect only mode? You want to actually like let them do their job and you do your job, and you just try and like find as many vulnerabilities and do your whatever you need to do. The client will get the alerts, but you will still be able to just run past. So this isn't a red team, like, oh, I'm gonna like sneak under your nose and steal all your shit. This is just like if you're a pen tester or somebody in the security industry and you're just looking for some tips to bypass your security solutions. Many organizations have multiple solutions in place. So you not only have the EDR these days, but you have something that monitors the network. You have a SIEM coming in, you have a SOAR, you have all these other things, and if it was just the EDR or if it was just this one thing, it's like easy to like get around, but like with all these other things, you can, for example, bypass like an EDR, but then perform password brute, password spraying on the network. XDR picks that up or something else picks that up because you're being a cowboy and you're just making a lot of noise on the network. Training and research for both attack and defense is becoming more available. We can see it with everybody launching courses these days, everybody with more than 5 years experience sometimes. That's becoming more available for the attack and defense. It's expensive as well, but that's a story for another day. And then the cat and mouse game continues as always. So recently Cobalt Strike 4.10 came out, crediting a lot of their like design and a lot of like what they are doing. They're crediting to Elastic's like in-memory detections and all that, which is a game changer. I mean, if Cobalt Strike and Brood Rattle and some of the other like big names out there in the offensive tool world created like a single company to say, hey, listen, we had to design our stuff this way because of what you're doing. Like there's that, and I'm not just saying that because they're a sponsor and they gave me like free shit at the booth, but it's actually a good product. And then today we also have a small team of what today's landscape looks like. We have a small team of nerds versus these big multi-million-dollar corporations. So you have a bypass, you blog about it, you say how you did it. 10 days later, an EDR comes and it's like, oh, we wrote detections for it. Like, okay, cool, can we have access to your platform or access to some of your research? And they just say, no. This is the effort, my little graph. It's not as nice as the one in the previous talk, but it's something. It's a little like effort versus defense, and as you can see, the blue is the effort. And yeah, the more advanced the solution is, the harder and the more effort it takes. And this doesn't even take in all the other stuff, plus having a full-on like SOC team monitoring, supposedly monitoring everything. Like it just gets like exponentially harder for you as an attacker. I thought I'd share another form of spyware other than the Windows operating system. If you know, you know. So Microsoft has all these other things on their operating system that helps defenders take advantage, or that helps defenders out, and you as an attacker, it makes your life harder. Individually, they are pretty easy to circumvent, but if you combine, if you as an attacker, you drop onto a really well-configured box, that sysadmin is eating or drinking your tears all day. You have stuff like UAC to make sure that you don't run, that you can't just get access to administrator and then to system, because Microsoft doesn't consider administrator to system a security vulnerability. You have PPL, which is Process Protection Light, I think. So that's just that trusted processes can open handles and open threads and inject into certain processes like ALSAs. You have Smartscreen, that thing that asks, are you sure you want to run this? You have the browser sandbox. If you download something, if you download an exe or something like that, or an unencrypted zip file, it would normally scan it before it before it puts it in your downloads folder. Mark of the web, I mean, we've all heard that story with the Office macros, and ASR, which is like your attack surface reduction. That's just like a weird little thing, but it's just like if you set up the rules, you can say like, oh, if a Word document is opening cmd.exe, then it's, it's kind of sus. And that forces us as attackers to actually start thinking creatively. We saw it recently with Elastic making the blog post about the Grim resource, the MSC files. The link files have been known and like blogged about for a long time, being able to like get around like mark of the web. But you as an attacker, you kind of like, the whole thing of this is to make this possible. Just having this like layered defenses and knowing you can't just like send somebody an exe on email and say, hey bro, open it. Like that won't fly. Additional security checks, again, and it's all about limiting the attack surface. It makes our job harder, but it doesn't always mean that the user is safe at the end of the day. Just like, for example, if you're doing like adversary simulation or something like that, and you need to do something like that to get execution on an endpoint, one thing you might do is, I don't know, do something like this for an example, but you also need to make sure that you don't have the user click on 10 things, because users after like 3 clicks are like done. They're just like, no, I don't trust this. So you kind of have to get creative with your thing, have the user like click once or twice at most, and then being able, while also evading all the other like security solutions on place. That being said, if you are a attacker, you don't know what's on the endpoint. It's like casting your little thing, your little perfect package that you've worked on for a while, and just like throwing it into like a black box and saying, like call back to me. Most of the time it doesn't work, but if it does work, it's very nice. So yeah, till this part, it's been pretty much boring and pretty much like text, and that like the pictures are coming soon. Yeah, so with AMSI, it was designed to stop the script-based attacks. I think it was brought out in 2014. Spies on your PowerShell sessions. So if you try and download and run something in memory, then it will say like, like we detect this as malicious content. A lot of antiviruses do work closely with AMSI, aka just like integrating with it, and they also rely too heavily on this. So I won't get into the nitty-gritty of what AMSI is, but most of the time it's the AMSI scan buffer and the AMSI scan string that monitors your stuff for malicious like content. Okay, wait, I think I forgot something to say, yeah. So a lot of the times here with vendors depending too much on this, think of AMSI as like the bodyguard for faultless attacks on normal antivirus machines. Like you will go and download something, run it in memory, AMSI will scan it, it will tell the antivirus that's normally only for your like PE files. It will say, this guy's good to go, or chase this guy out of the bar. So that's basically what AMSI does on like a very high level. So there are many ways to bypass AMSI. As you can see there, I don't know how clear the text is, but the very first on the top right there, I just tried a normal reverse shell calling back to my beacon. There's my IP address on the right hand or on the left hand side. If you guys want to hack me, good luck. And obviously it didn't work because the script contained malicious content, which is the reverse shell. Used AMSI bypass that I've been using on many engagements over the years. It got triggered and caught, so it was kind of like a sad moment for me because it's like my little baby. It's now been it's now been detected, so I had to like work around. I basically disabled AMSI and ran the same command as I did in the first block, and got the callback, because you basically just tell AMSI to like error out, and then it's like, okay, cool, like I don't know what to do now, and then the antivirus is like, okay, I trust you even though you don't know what you're doing, and that results in the reverse shell. So without killing AMSI, this is just an example. I think I messed up the slides somewhere, but I wanted to show you that you don't have to disable AMSI. Like a lot of the times, if you are on like on your newer machines, whenever you bypass AMSI or you patch AMSI in some way, your newer EDRs or your newer like next generation AVs will actually detect that you are trying to patch it or trying to kill it, and then it will set up an alert and kill your PowerShell session. So this was just me playing around with some string obfuscation, and on the right-hand side, you guys can see that this is the exact same one that was found here, that got triggered first, and then on the left-hand side is actually the one that's hiding and peeking around in that, peeking at you from that PowerShell session. So this is kind of like, because it still scans for malicious strings, if you can hide or obfuscate those strings in some way, you can still get around just normal like AMSI without having to patch it or without having to do whatever. But yeah, these are normally like, you shouldn't get attached to them because they will, like, AMSI will eventually like pick up that you are trying to do something and then, like flag you and kill your session. And these are just some tips if you want to look at like some AMSI bypasses. So string kung fu, obviously like one thing you can do, and I've actually like done it here, is you just take this normal string, pop it into like ChatGPT and say like, obfuscate this. I challenge you to obfuscate this as best as you can. And, well, it obviously worked because I was able to get a callback to my shell. So yeah, very, very minimal effort actually. Yeah. So if you want to, like the first two, there are many like bypasses, there are many blogs, there are many repos going around these type of like bypasses and that. String Kung Fu is a great one. And then also just like, you can mix those like two things. Like you could see in the first slide is the first patching session got detected, modified a little bit, and you're good to go. Yeah, to keep your alerts low. So these are environments that have PowerShell execution. I've seen a lot of like people saying like, oh yeah, like move away from PowerShell, PowerShell is dead. Well, I don't know how many environments that you guys have been on that didn't have PowerShell disabled. Not many. And even then, like there's a way to like go around it, but yeah. So learn how to use PowerShell without the third-party tools. Like if you need to do domain enumeration, don't just like load in PowerView and say get netcomputer and get netuser and get domain user and do all that. Like just learn how to do it manually, and normally like that's enough to like fly under the radar. You'll see later in the thing that, or later in the slide, why PowerShell still is pretty cool, and yeah, it's enough to like bypass some EDRs as well. And I mean XDRs as well. And then, yeah, like law bins, living off the land is still a great thing. Been able to like identify like certutil, or using like certutil to do a couple of things. Using like MS Build, for instance, if PowerShell is disabled and you have MS Build on the system, you can actually bring your own version of PowerShell on there, and that is pretty awesome as well. And you can use like like link files and do all those type of things to like just get creative if the opportunity is there. So next one is antivirus and next-gen antivirus. Antivirus scans for bad strings inside of a file, and your next-gen antivirus will monitor the PE and use AI and machine learning and do all these like fancy marketing keywords to actually like watch for like bad things. This creates a lot of false positives, as you can see on the thing there. Somebody called their Wi-Fi name Invoke Mimikatz, and yeah, that happened. So with your more traditional antivirus, it's like the biggest challenge I had for making these slides of finding pictures that like that everybody can understand and that I don't have to spend hours making. So I did link the credits, but yeah, that's not in here. But yeah, so your more traditional antivirus comes free with some Windows installations. We've all seen like Norton and McAfee, and like I think those are the two main ones. Semantic maybe, but yeah, like they normally come free, and you normally uninstall them because they say, hey, you have 90 days free, and then you're just like, just get off my system. Also block malicious sites, like I know like McAfee does that. Your signatures that scans for or that gets matched to like files that the antivirus scans get stored in like a signature database, which then gets updated on a regular basis. Like you can go onto your Windows and say like, oh, update like signatures or whatever, and it will like, yeah, it will just have the latest. So it like scans for certain things or scans for certain files, takes a hash of it, looks in the signature in the database file, and then it's just like, okay, cool. Then it determines if it's malicious or not. Many organizations still have them because I think they're like cheap. And you know, who doesn't love cheap up until they get hacked? But yeah, like I've been on engagements where we had this more traditional AVs. You run a PowerShell session, you bypass AMSI, and you basically do whatever you want. As long as you don't do like with your traditional, it's like you do whatever you want. Next generation AV, thanks to Microsoft for the picture. And yeah, so basically it does the checks, but what it will also do is it will take some data, send it to the cloud, analyze it using different models, just think of it basically as instead of the database sitting on your computer, the database sits in the cloud, and then it sends it through to the cloud, analyzes it, and then it's like, okay, cool, you're good to go, or no, we think this is bad. And then, yeah, it also offers some sort of like centralized management for organizations. So you as the sweaty IT guy doesn't have to like run to 700 computers and update everything. Like you can just sit in your seat and do it. And basically it's just like a traditional antivirus, but just with add-ons. If they're like, oh, you know, marketing will say, oh, we detect fileless attacks. We do this. Like, okay, yeah, like, a lot of the times it's your traditional thing that has like a few things like stuck on, and it basically like if there is a vulnerability in or if there's like a weakness in your like normal antivirus and they make a new next-gen antivirus, the vulnerability sometimes is still there. With Windows Defender, it is like that. I can't like really speak about the risk because I was too lazy to go and download all the other like antiviruses and that to test it. But I know with Windows it is. This was just a simple reverse shell. If I put this on LinkedIn, I would have been famous. But yeah, I decided to share it with you guys instead. So basically what I did here was just like a simple like Rust TCP shell that calls on port 80 and that bypasses like Windows Defender, like next-gen antivirus in commas. And basically how I did this was just using an exotic programming language. So it bypassed like the static detection, and like because there's no like known malicious like shell like this. And then for the behavioral, all I did was like a simple like 2-minute sleep, and basically just like called out on this. I didn't use any like fancy Windows APIs. I actually just used like the like Rust, this like Tokyo framework, just to like establish like a HTTP session. Your whole idea to bypass your next generation antivirus is basically just to like blend in, like a sheep in wolf's clothing. You want to make us think that, oh yeah, I'm just like a little like innocent little file sending on the system, you know. Meanwhile, you're getting a reverse shell and starting your malicious activities. Here's your tips. Little sandbox evasion goes a whole way. Again, just want to reiterate what I said, like your whole thing is just to like blend in a little bit. If you can bypass static detection, bypass your sandbox evasion checks, like don't go and just like throw everything you know in there because it's going to look sus. Don't use the common win APIs. Like a couple of years ago when I first started out on this, I used virtual alloc, and a colleague of mine laughed at me. I ran it, and Windows Defender laughed at me. So yeah, like don't use your common stuff. With Windows Defender, you can just go and use the NT APIs. Because somehow it doesn't detect that. So use your more exotic programming languages, like I see there, like you guys can see there on the right, C versus Rust. C being the way it like decompiles, like everything decompiles to C. So it's harder to hide stuff, but it's also like, yeah, you really need to, like, if you want to just get like a fast and dirty like reverse shell, just use just use Rust. Yeah, I sound like one of those tech influencers, like just use Rust, bro. But yeah, one thing you can also look at is C#. That is a phenomenal language that doesn't get the attention that it deserves because a lot of tools are written in C#. You can run C# in memory in a PowerShell session. You can, I think you like base64 it, and then you like run the bytes in memory, like stream it through, which is pretty cool because of like the .NET runtime. So yeah, like if you wanna focus on like Windows stuff, like use C#. If you wanna focus on like multi-platform, use Rust or use Go or I think even NIM, but NIM has its that has its quirks. And then just hiding your IOC. So one thing I did in my Rust reverse shell was just like obfuscate the IP address and the port number as well. And yeah, that was enough because what the antivirus does is like opens from like a basic point of view, like it opens up your file, it looks for like bad stuff, and then if it's like to bypass static detection, if the static detection doesn't like find anything, then it's like, okay, cool, like you can go on to the next stage. So hiding like common IOCs is a great way of like bypassing like both AV and like your next gen AV. So this picture is probably like the only picture I could find that really like indicates like how complex an EDR is. And I had to go and buy the book to get it. I did credit the author, so please don't sue me. But yeah, just showing like, I'm not gonna go into detail of like what it is, or like I'm not gonna go into detail of the design philosophy and like the principles and all this. Like, there's your picture, read it if you want. If you don't want, like, it's also fine, doesn't hurt me. So they do differ a lot in operation. Like, there are some antiviruses, okay, so that's 60 minutes. There are some antivirus or EDRs that are really strong in like faultless. There are some EDRs that are really strong in like binary. There are some EDRs that are really even strong in network, even though they sell themselves as an EDR. They have the cooler dashboards for the threat hunters and incident responders. There was another point in here, but yeah. The cooler dashboards is one thing. Like anybody that has ever like tried to like hunt something or respond to an incident know that like if you have to like do like 10, 15, 20 clicks just to like see where the incident happened, like it gets so frustrating. So a lot of them have these like cool dashboards that show this like pretty pictures of all the data they collected, because an EDR collects a lot of data. Like you can see there, like it collects stuff on the system, the static, it hooks into the DLL, it collects the network stuff. Like all that data needs to get sent to one place and then displayed for the ED or for the incident response guys or the threat hunters to actually like correlate and understand what's going on. Like it won't be nice if you just see like 10,000 events happening every minute. Like, yeah. And then again, like it monitors all this other stuff as well. Some of them have this like new feature where they do like threat intelligence as well, where they scan for like malicious sites, like sites known or sites on IPs that are like known to host C2 servers and that. And then, but most of the time as well, just like beaconing, like you as like an incident responder or like a threat hunter, like you can see if everything calls out 10 minutes, every 10 minutes on the dot, like bro, that that thing is beaconing. And then, also just checks for traffic, clear text traffic. If you're gonna like go past like EDR in more complex environments, make sure that like stuff is encrypted, because it will read the network traffic going to and from like on the device, and it becomes even more difficult once you start adding like an XDR on it, and you want to start like doing lateral movement and all that stuff. Like, it's just it's too much to talk about in like with 14 minutes left. This is where we used MDE because why not Microsoft? They have a fantastic product in terms of like detecting like suspicious like network traffic and that, but their like actual like endpoint is really susceptible to like user land or like bypass. Like if you can bypass the user land hooks, like you can pretty much like run around like Defender and both MDE. It just goes on that previous thing where if there's like a weakness or like a design flaw in the antivirus, then in the next gen antivirus, and now in the EDR, that flaw is still there. It doesn't matter how many like things they attach onto it. This was just like a simple like little reverse shell using like encoded shellcode. That's another thing. If you want to like bypass your static detections, is don't ever leave your shellcode unencrypted. Like any vendor will pick that up. And then just getting a callback to brute rattle. We use brute rattle internally and for like our clients, only because it already comes with like a lot of evasion features outside of the box. It's a really vicious piece of malware. This was just like a little bit with like Sentinel-1. Doing Sentinel-1's weakness that we picked up was that it really sucks at like monitoring your AMSI or monitoring your PowerShell sessions and Fowler stuff. There are obviously like ways that you can like strengthen this, adding like a sysmon or something like that, something that actually like monitors what you actually like throw into your PowerShell sessions. But just for like your normal out-of-the-box installation, and you have like a little bit of configuration, it's not really hardened, but it is somewhat hardened. You can run around, and you can see there in the first blurry line there, that was my AMSI bypass that got detected. I ran that one after this one, so I think Sentinel-1 snitched on me, if I'm honest with you. Maybe it was mad, I don't know. So basically bypass that and use my encoded shell, and it was able to get a callback. But this is super important because, it's important to know that like just because you get a shell now, like that's only getting your foot in the door, right? Like you still need to do domain enumeration. You still need to look for users vulnerable to Kerber roasting and ASREP roasting and like all those other things. You still like need to do that, and just doing it in a single like PowerShell session is incredibly unreliable, because you trip one snare and it's basically game over. It kills your thing unless you have like multiple shells open. But I mean that is an indicator as well. If there's like multiple applications or services calling to your same like C2 domain, then that's another. You can look at proxies as well, but it just becomes really difficult at this point, because now you got it. You're like, I have this like shell. I have this like I'm in. Hackers be like I'm in. But then you still have to do all the rest of your operation. Like if there's something that like detects like curb roasting or detects lateral movement, you're kind of done for. You don't know what the client has in the environment. Not always. Like there are ways to like enumerate it and do your recon in that, but like yeah, it will say Sentinel-1. Like if this was the XDR or if it had like Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which then monitors like suspicious like traffic, even though it doesn't stop it, you have a good like MDR or a good like SOC. They look at it and it's like, why is somebody like just requesting like TGT tickets? You know, like what is the point of this? Like as soon as you like do something suspicious, it's basically game over. This was bypassing Coward Strike with PowerShell. And basically what we did here is we took, I took PowerView because it's a PowerShell script. I opened it up. I took the functions that I wanted to use, and I just encoded them instead. So instead of running the whole file, you run individual single functions one at a time. It does take longer, but I mean, it doesn't like, yeah, you're less suspect on the network at the end of the day. And yeah, like, and you can do this with like any application. If you use like C, you can put that thing into your loader, and then you can create like an object file, and you can actually just run this as you know, like anybody that's used like a modern C2 know that it's like a COF loader or like a BOF loader. You can create those object files and you can run it. You can run these functions as well. And if you use something like C#, well, then you can just like you can just like encode your thing within PowerShell and then just run it in memory and get get your result. What this doesn't show you is the probably like 15 failed attempts at the Kerber roasting, because it got detected a lot, and then I don't know, maybe CrowdStrike got tired of detecting the same thing and it just let me through. But yeah, no, it's actually a lot of hard work. And then, yeah, so in the previous session, we saw a bell graph. I didn't understand what was going on there, so I thought I'd share one for all the other people that didn't understand what was going on there and didn't want to say anything, a better bell graph about the whole like perception of defense evasion, and I think just like offensive security in general. So, you know, you have your like commercial tools and your open source repos. People use that. You have the stage where I think every like pen tester goes into where everything needs to be custom. It needs to be written from scratch. And then you have your moment of enlightenment, knowing that you can use your commercial tools, use the open source repos, and just customize them a little bit. Other things are, you know, your low entropy, encrypted traffic, clean domains, and jittery callbacks. Jitter on callbacks just means that you add like a little like buffer to when it does normally callback. So if you have like a jitter of 40% on 10 minutes, it will call between 6 and 14 minutes. So it's just like that randomness between the callbacks, just so it makes it difficult. It makes it harder for your blue team guys to pick up. Your stage loaders, one thing, if you encrypt your shellcode inside of a file, a lot of like static detections will pick it up and it will say, hey, listen, we can see that this is a pack file. Like we can see there's another application within your application and we think that's suspect. So have something that you drop onto the box, and then afterwards, if you've done your like initial checks in that, then you go and call the big guns. And that also helps with your entropy. Entropy meaning like just like randomness of characters within a file. normally with shellcode, anybody who's seen shellcode and pretended to know what's going on there would know that it's just like random like digits and like shit like that. So, and if you encrypt it, it becomes even more random. So, and if you have a high randomness within your file, that normally means that you are packing, like you are having shellcode, or it normally just means like encrypted shellcode. Look for open source tooling, manually modify it, and then having your various techniques. Like there are many techniques out there that exist and that help you like circumvent EDRs and bypass it. Like it's up to you to just like go and learn them, and also just go and learn like the different like weaknesses within an EDR. Most of the time we have these like, if we have an engagement, we don't know what EDR they're running, or we find out what EDR they're running like a day or two before the time. It's just this like rat race of just like researching vulnerabilities in it. I'm really lucky in the sense of like I work for a company that does MDR, and we have a lot of like EDRs available there that we can test in labs. If you don't have that, well, then you kind of like need to do it on the fly, or you need to go and like download like the trial versions of stuff and just like play around with it. You can reverse it in that, but I mean, if you only have like Elastic that like only has like 14 days free trial, like yeah, it's not a lot of time that you have to do a lot of research. And then just like legitimate third-party administrator tools. I won't tell you which tools, because yeah, then my next operation won't be a success. But yeah, there are a lot of like legitimate third-party tools that can be converted into output formats of other tools. If you want to know, come and talk to me afterwards. I'll tell you, except if you work for one of these two companies. So the takeaways is, if your company has this capability for research, use it. With the advancements in defense and that, it's going to get a lot harder for just your standard pen test shop to be able to circumvent these things. And with good reason. It's like companies spend millions of dollars of research. Some spend more in marketing and lawsuits, but a lot of them spend a lot of time and effort in research. So, and you need to kind of like match that as well. So yeah, if you guys have EDRs and that in your company, and you do have like a private instance that you can use, and you want to just like test around, test what sees what work, like have the two screens, the one where you like have the three screens, the monitor, your victim, and then just your like the console, and then you can see like what picks up, what doesn't. There are other techniques, but that's basically like just seeing like what works and what doesn't. Good malware doesn't always don't get attached to your work. That's a super important one, because you can spend like a whole week, maybe 2 weeks, building this like perfect loader. Like that thing is like, fine like Italian wine, and yeah, and then you use it on an engagement, and next engagement you want to use it, it already got burned. So I only have a minute left. So good malware doesn't always mean a successful engagement. Again, you can have the base malware, the base loaders, the base C2, whatever. If you're going to be a cowboy on the network, you're going to get caught. If you're just going to like password spray and do whatever and just like try and like LSAS dump and just like go mad, you are going to get caught. And then again, I want to reiterate, getting in is easy, but staying in is super hard. Especially if it's like a longer term thing, and the longer you are in, the more stressful it becomes, because you're like, I did all this work, please don't catch me. They often do catch me though. And then, yeah, like this is just getting started, learning a language. I put Python in here because we were there at I presented at 0xCon, and some of the guys came to me afterward and said like, hey dude, like you can do Python as well. So yeah, you can just package it and it gets around MDE, and I tried it and sure as shit it did. So I threw Python in here as well. Learned the OS internals, learn how to use a debugger because you'll be spending a lot of time in it. I prefer x64 DBG. And then, yeah, just start learning the different techniques and start combining and experimenting with them. And yeah, thanks. These are the links. I'll share the slides on HackSelf. So if anybody wants access to this, you guys can just like check it on there. Okay, thank you.